Hi everyone, welcome back to Rail Stuff, where we make a further attempt at making some progress with the Arches. I'm fresh back from the Doncaster Festival of Model Railway, or Railway Modelling, whichever one it is anyway, it's some kind of festival. And it's one of the Warner's shows, a very good show for rail stuff. Thank you to all of you who dropped by and mentioned the YouTube videos and the podcast as well. Really appreciate it, and great to meet so many of you this weekend. And in just a few weeks' time we'll be off to Scotland, because our next show is Model Rail Scotland at the SEC in Glasgow. Now, you will see that there's not been a huge amount of progress since I last spoke to you. Life has kind of got in the way, as always. I did paint some windows and a door though, so I mean that was really good progress. And I still haven't cleaned my brush either, but that's just typical Adam basically. So we'll deal with that in a minute. What I did do with this though, because I'm not very used to painting the thin laser cut wood, so I tried using some primer first just to help the paint grab, and that seemed to work well, so I didn't have to do too many coats or anything like that. And that will all be part of this unit here, where you see the gap for the windows and the door. So you join me again at a point where I've just added the like the tile toppers to the archwork there, and at the moment there's not a lot I can do until I start painting that, and that's something I keep putting off, but I will do at some point. I need to clean up my airbrush and make sure it's in good nick. I haven't used it for a while, and then we can get going with that. And the plan with that will be to give it a coat of MIG one-shot primer first in transparent. So do that, and then move on to some of the paints from the MIG Urban Diorama set that will give me the brick effects that I want to get. It will probably end up similar kind of colour to the brickwork that I did on the shed itself, that's also going to be on the diorama. But for now, my plan is to make some progress with the actual base itself, and the simple thing that I need to do before I can do anything else is give it a base coat of some pretty basic burnt umber acrylic paint, so something like this, that will then just give it its very base coat for me to build everything else on top of from there. So with the base now fully dry, it's literally just a colouring for the base in case anything shows through when I start doing some of the more scenic work. One of the tricky things that I have left to do, which I keep forgetting about, is that obviously the run of arches along the back is too long, so I do actually need to cut it down at that point there, and cutting down an already constructed laser cut kit is not going to be entirely straightforward, I don't think. So it's probably something I'm going to need to tackle sooner rather than later, because otherwise it's one of those things that I'll just keep putting off and off and off and off and off. So I'm going to mark it up now, and then this may be a case of having to use a Dremel or something similar to to cut it off, although Dremels through wood as thin as this can be tricky as well, so I'm going to have to give that some thought, but let's get it marked up so that I know where to cut when I need to. So I did it. I probably didn't use the right tools and sadly made a bit of a dog's dinner of it in places, but it is now cut down to size. What I'm probably going to do is cap the two ends off with some spare bits of the brickwork at some point anyway. Either that, or I might put some like end pieces on the diorama itself. But that's something I can think about in the future. But one of the things I will do is I'll then just tidy up the edges. So I've been filing them a little bit, but I can do a little bit more of that with some very fine grit sandpaper as well. And then I think when I start to actually paint it as well, a lot of the imperfections will disappear anyway. So but what I will say is that actually it turns out that cutting laser cut wood like this with a Dremel, unless you've got exactly the right blade, is very difficult and quite smelly as well. So I had to revert to Stanley knife and scalpel in the end, which again was probably not the right tools, but it got me as far as this. And it's sort of getting to the point where it will be ready to start primering and then base coat painting and everything like that, because once I've done that I can then start to put the gate and the window and door details into there, and also I want to add some lighting on the inside of this one and this one here, which means I probably want to paint the inside black as well to stop any light leaking out on some of the other panels. So yeah, I need to think about all of that, but we kind of got that to the right size. We've got the base paint on now. I think probably the next job is actually to run some ballast along this piece of track, and also to mark out where the roadway is going to go, and start to think about how that's going to come together. I think what I'm going to do with the roadway, because it's going to be fairly rough and ready, is I'm probably going to use some like polyfiller mixture just to build up a little bit of relief in the road, a little bit of bumpiness, and then I'm thinking of using some of the MIG Ammo textured paint, which they do in an asphalt. The asphalt may be a little bit darker than I would initially think, but I might just add a little bit of white acrylic paint to that just to lighten it up. But it'll be nice to have the texture in there as well. So yeah, next steps are a bit of filler down the back of the road area, ballast the track, and that's the next steps. So it's the next day, and the polyfiller type stuff, just some cheap stuff from the range, has gone off quite nicely. So it gives a nice sort of rough, slightly bumpy surface, which is exactly what I wanted. So it's not sort of like built up a extra level or anything, it's just given a little bit of extra roughness to the surface ready for painting. There's a couple of bits that I'll just chip off where I kind of went over the edges a little bit, but hey, best artwork does, doesn't it? But the idea now is to paint it. Now I was originally going to use some of the MIG Ammo textured paint for asphalt. But I've decided against it on this occasion. It's quite dark, which for like a freshly laid asphalt is perfect. That's not really the effect I'm going for here. I want something a bit lighter, sort of like something that's been down there for quite a while. It's got quite faded and used, and I want a base that I can then sort of weather on top of as well. So what I'm actually going to do is I've mixed up some acrylic paint, and even that's probably a little bit dark. I don't know. We'll see once it's dried. So I'm going to put that on with a very basic brush. These I think £2.95 or £3.95 for a pack of 5 from Rail Stuff. So nice and cheap and cheerful. Great for lathering on PVA glue, things like that. And then I'm going to use a foam brush afterwards to smooth it out, and then to dab in just to create some of the effect, so you're not seeing brush marks on it. Again, these are about £2.95 I think for a pack of 5 from Rail Stuff. These are the kind of things that everyone should have in their toolbox, is some basic craft brushes, some basic foam brushes. You'll use them plenty. So yeah, that's what we're going to do, is just give that section of paint now, and then we'll take it from there, really. So I'm just going to mask it up again. Not that I need to be super careful, because all of this stuff is obviously going to have layers of scenics built up on it, but you know, I just want to avoid going completely crazy over the edges, and keep that sort of nice straight edge that I've got going at the moment. So just some very basic low tack masking tape. The low tack bit can be a bit of a challenge, because it doesn't stick perfectly well to the cork, but it's good just to help out as a basic. You don't have to use fancy masking tape like this. You can use sort of basic decorating masking tape. It just happens that I've got some of this lying around, and this isn't even fancy stuff, it's just cheap modelling low tack masking tape. Right, let's get painting. So whilst we're waiting for that to dry, I want to pop some ballast down over the track, ready to get that sorted, because that's going to be a big next step as well. I tend to have lots of scraps of ballast left lying around from other projects and things like that, and this is what I've got left here, which this is actually quite a fine ballast. I don't know how well you can see that through the bag. This is some of the Natural Scenics ballast, which I stock. And the thing I like about it is that the 00 gauge ballast is actually closer to what a lot of brands would sell as an N gauge ballast. And there is always that conversation about, actually, you know, should you use N gauge ballast for 00? Actually, I find that the Natural Scenic stuff is kind of bang on in between, and gives the right look and feel. So I do tend to use quite a bit of that. Comes in 1 kilogram boxes as well, for like £7.95, so it's not exactly expensive. But also, some of you will be familiar with the fact that I like to kind of alter my ballast a little bit as well. I don't just go for a straight out the bag or out of the pot kind of finish. So first thing I'm going to do is just pour some into this little pot here. Again, empty pots like this are the kind of thing that every modeller should have. I think I just grabbed those off Amazon for like £4 for 3 pots or something crazy like that. They're really useful and obviously very reusable as well. So that's the kind of ballast that I'm working with, but I want it to be a bit dirtier. So I favour mixing a little bit of weathering pigment in with my ballast. Now, you don't need a lot of this for it to make quite a difference. You can go the route of, and I've tried this before in another video as well, using like pastel chalk that you can scrape off and sort of mix that in like a pigment, but you need to use quite a lot of it to actually make a difference to the colour. This pigment is an old pigment that I've got lying around. I would normally use something from the MIG ammo range of pigments like this, but I'm just using this one up, so I might as well use it. I just need something to spoon some out with, so ruler, why not? And I'm just going to take a very small amount of this pigment, in fact even probably less than that. We can build it up slowly. So a small amount there, I'll put it in there, just dig it in a little bit, maybe a tiny bit more. You'll see that at the moment it hasn't really made any difference at all. But now we're going to put the lid on, give it a shake, and you can see immediately that ballast has really darkened down. So it's quite a bit darker than it was before. It looks quite dirty. So there's plenty enough of that one, but I do want a little bit of browny earthy kind of look in there as well. So I'll put a small amount of this MIG Ammo Europe earth in there as well. That'll probably be plenty enough. And we'll give it a shake up again. The advantage of this technique is that actually you can have one base colour of ballast in your armoury, and then you can just recolour it however you want for different sections of your layout. You don't have to have lots of different versions of ballast that you can use around the layout. Just get one and then recolour it. That's what I like to do, but I'm sure many of you will have your own methods. Feel free to drop it in the comments below for people's reference. So now I'm just going to pour this on, and then I'll start to brush it up, neaten it up, and then at some point we'll fix it down. Now, fixing ballast in place, everyone's got their own methods. Mine is pretty tried and tested. I've got this old disinfectant spray, which is basically IPA. I give that a little spray over the dry ballast, and then I've just mixed up some 50-50 PVA and water. It's as simple as that. And then what I tend to use to apply it is just a little pipette. Not ideal if you're doing a big section or anything like that, but for a small diorama like this, perfect. So the reason you give it a spray is so that when you put the glue over the top, it's far easier for the glue to soak in, and it just goes through all of the bits of ballast. The reason this glue is a bit dirty, by the way, is because I used a dirty paint mixing stick to mix it up with, so I haven't added anything else in there. It's quite watered down actually, but you know, I tend to find that it's better like that. Anything to bear in mind is obviously what the sort of atmospheric conditions are like wherever you're laying the ballast. So some of you, I'm sure, watched New Junction, and we saw, I don't know if you saw any of Richard's pictures on social media of just how long it was taking for his ballast to dry in a cold garage. You know, I think he said it was something like 7 or 8 days it took for it to dry, and even then it had some patchy bits. That's pretty common. This is a garage, but I might have got lucky because at the moment, despite the fact that it is the middle of February, it's 16 degrees outside. It's ridiculous, and it's actually even warmer in the garage. Plus I have got a heater out here that was on this morning, so it is actually exceptionally warm in here, so I think this will probably dry off pretty quickly. But don't be afraid to put too much glue on, because that will just help it settle. Obviously here I haven't got to worry about whether the track's in good running condition or not, because this is just a diorama. And you see, I don't know if you saw that there, but that part of the ballast isn't wet enough. So as I put the glue on, it kind of just moved away from the dry part. So I'm just going to wet that a bit more down the side there, and you'll then see the difference. As I put this on, just runs straight through the ballast and gets to all parts of it. So absolutely critical part is to wet the ballast before you start gluing. So that's that soaked in glue now, so I should imagine that's going to take a good 24 hours to set and go off. So for now, that's probably it for this video, whilst we wait for the roadway to dry and the ballast to dry. And then when we come back, we're going to be looking at adding some ground cover, some patches of grass, and we do need to start painting up the arches as well, and then looking at things like fencing and placement of the engine shed and all of that kind of stuff. Oh, and we've got to lay some track across the top of the arches as well. And I am a little bit concerned about laying the ballast on there and then gluing it, in terms of how that works on laser cut wood, which is quite thin and porous. So any ideas on that, let me know in the comments below. But for now, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.